Hey friends, welcome to Produce is People, the podcast with Nate Montgomery, the produce champion. I hope you enjoy the show. Make sure that you listen to it, make sure you share it, and make sure that you tell us what you think about it. Hey friends, Nate Montgomery, the produce champion. Welcome to Produce is People, the podcast. I'm really excited. I've got Darrel Beyer here with us with Bluebird Mountain Organics. I hope I got that right. And
you sure did.
You've been in the deal for quite some time, so let's just jump in. I got some questions for you. There you go, using produce slang. In the deal, right? Sorry.
In the deal.
You've been a produce guy for how long, Darrel?
Nate, man, I've been in produce for 27 years.
Wow. And so when you started, what did you start doing? How did you get started in produce?
My grandfather was partners with Sam Perricone at Sam Perricone Citrus on the LA market in the 80s and 90s. And, I started working for my father and my grandfather because they both worked there, and all my whole family worked there. It was a very family oriented company. I started there, driving forklifts, loading trucks, repacking oranges, doing all the dirty stuff. But it was honestly, it was probably the best time of my life working on the market in those years. So that's how I started. I started working for my grandfather and kind of worked my way up. And then they sold that company to Fresh America, I believe in 98. And they pretty much fired my whole family, and they kept me because I was cheap. And it lasted about a year, and then it closed. That's what happens when bankers buy companies. Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of that right now, right? Where bankers are buying companies, and we kind of saw a big boom of that in the 80s before I was ever in produce. But then we're seeing one right now. I wonder how long it'll last.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but when those bankers and those venture capitalists take over companies like this, they're looking at hard numbers and they think they're going to get a lot of money really fast, and they don't really understand the produce world and the ups and downs. You lose 2 years, you win a good one, and then that covers you for the next 2 years. And I don't think they're in it for the long haul necessarily. I think they're in it for quick money, and it doesn't really happen that fast for them because they don't understand.
Produce is kind of like a gambling addiction, right?
It is. And if you don't have the capital, you can't withstand the ups and downs. I mean, you have to be able to play when it's bad to enable you to get to those times when it's good. Yeah.
So you've been in the deal a long time. You started with mostly citrus. How do you end up being an organic company? What's the motivation there? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Okay. So, after Perricone closed, I worked at Yamina Brothers, and I stuck with citrus for a little bit, and I brokered it for a couple years. But then my wife's father, so my father-in-law was really good friends with a gentleman named Dean Walsh, who owned Pure Pack back in the day. And it was an organic company, the DW Berry Farms. They were all that's the company, and that's how I got into organic. I started working there with Peter Oil, and who's a organic pioneer, and that's how I got into organic. The first week I got there, I didn't know what fennel was, I didn't know what daikon was. So I'm selling all these things and I don't even know what they are. So that's how I got my start in organics. After a couple years, when I first started, Peter left, and then a couple years later, Peter came back, so I left. And then I worked for Sundance Organics in Oceanside for a couple years, doing organic citrus and dragon fruit and avocados. And then
all the easy stuff, right?
Yeah, the stuff that you don't have to work too hard. Everyone wants it, and it's always good money. But then in probably 2007, I opened my first company with my father-in-law, and it was called City Ag. And we were on the market. We had 5 doors, but that was a bloodbath. It was so hard. The overhead on the cooler was $30,000 a month, and it was really hard to find good salespeople without spending $200,000 to steal one from a Valley or a American or a Continental, whatever, So it was really tough. We did that for a couple of years, and then I convinced my dad my father-in-law to get out of the market. We moved our office to Oxnard, and then by that time, Pure Pak had been sold, but it went bankrupt because they sold it to venture capitalists. And Dean Walsh, who was the owner, he set up a pretty sweet deal so that he got to keep all his land when he sold it, and he grew it all, but they were the marketers. So when they went bankrupt, he had all the land and he had all the stuff in the ground. So again, then I jumped right back in and started marketing, organic stuff. And we did that for a couple of years, and then we got our own farm, and it was the wrong farm. And that just killed us. We lost about $2 million and we had to close. And then, 2 days later, I was at Boscovich, and I ran the Boscovich organic program for about 7 years, took that from about 4 million to 20 million. Then COVID hit. So, we had to get out of California. I moved to Montana. I was going back and forth to Boscovich. But they didn't like that. They didn't approve of that. So they were like, you have to be in the office. So I said, okay, well then I'm going to leave. Which was a huge deal because it was a very good job with a very good company, and I took a huge risk and met with some of my Mexican partners, and we started a company. So here we are. It's been a long road coming. I'm so thankful for my partners in Mexico for enabling me to do this again and do it right with good backing, a huge company. Good capital, and we're gonna make this thing. The 5-year plan is big. I mean, we're gonna keep expanding, and hopefully I can get it to I'm thinking $100 million, $100 million company in 5 years is my goal. So we'll see.
So let me ask you a question. You talked about your partners out of Mexico. And there are some unique challenges that come with importing product. So how do you, some of those being when you're importing, are you going to get what you were expecting? Is communication. Sometimes everybody uses the same words, but they have different meanings. And then you add the language barrier. Documentation, all those. What are some of the challenges that you have come across, and how do you overcome some of those?
Well, there were a number of challenges that were posed to us over this last season that, we've kind of corrected, and we've changed the direction and kind of some of the internal players. Some of the hardest parts is just getting good feedback from the fields. They can give me a forecast, but they can't tell me, if there's a good market, if kale's $24, I have no problem cutting myself out of kale for 2 weeks to get the good money and get it good for my grower. So just the communication is a little tough. We do a lot of WhatsApp. That way we can translate. So, I can go back and forth, but clearly I'm going to have to, I need a Spanish tutor because I go to Mexico way too much, and I don't speak enough Spanish. So, but they've got everyone out in Mexico at that company going to learn English to accommodate me. So, it wasn't that bad, but I didn't get a lot of feedback from the foreman. Like when I talk to my growers in California, I talk to them every day. Hey, this is pushing. You got to cut this. If you cut too much, you're going to cut yourself out. The communication is excellent. But the language barrier in Mexico and just the disconnect and how far they are, it's a lot harder to get that kind of good information all the time. So this season we have in place a guy for me that speaks English, who can get me, feedback from the field. And, it's going to be a much better season. We fixed some kinks.
Yeah. Now, just you mentioned the WhatsApp, right? Most of the people in the U.S. don't use or don't like to use WhatsApp. They don't see an advantage to it. I was involved with the group that used a Slack channel, and I'm like, everything that this Slack channel does, you could do on WhatsApp for a whole lot cheaper. And but I find it a very useful tool for international transit.
Well, That's exactly it. Like you said, a lot of people in stateside don't really use WhatsApp. But if you're talking to people in South America, Mexico, all over the country, they are all WhatsApp savvy. Everyone does WhatsApp out of the country. So it's a great tool, and it's, talk about expensive, it's free.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, so it's great. It's great. I was probably the gringo on the stateside that didn't really want to do WhatsApp, but so many people kept WhatsApping me. It's like it sucked me right in. So
yeah,
I use WhatsApp every day now.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So you got a pretty aggressive 5-year objective for your company. Sounds like organic is going to be the primary part. Are you looking at doing conventional as well, or is conventional in the forecast?
Yeah, conventional is in the forecast. My plate's so full, and right now I'm, being a small company, I'm the only sales guy. So, as my plate keeps getting more full, I probably have to poach a conventional guy somewhere to help me. Yeah, we're going to venture into the conventional world. Just to tell you a little bit about our organic world, we have a full organic line. It's, celery, broccoli, kales, collards, chard, spinach, beets, asparagus. And then we have a year-round date program. We have year-round organic green onions. So I'm trying really hard. Last year was hard because to get set up with some of these chains, being a little guy, it was really hard. But now I've got, a couple of chains under my belt. So I'm thinking, I can contract a lot of that stuff out, and it'll make this, it's just going to be a better year. This last year was a lot of building as I was selling, and it was really hard. It was really hard, but we made it. We did good, and Mexico's happy. They made good money, and so we're just going to keep banging away. We're going hard. They grow for a number of people. And they wanted to have some in-house sales because, a lot of people, the guys in Mexico don't always get the fair share, they have a bad taste in their mouth with us. And, it took me a year to like really show them that I'm not a crook and that I'm not here to, take shortcuts or cut corners or, steal, or I just don't, that's not it. So it took them a while, but they trust me now completely, and it's a really great thing. So like I said, I was in Mexico yesterday. I got to go back the first week of September, and then I got to go back in October before harvest so we can get some pictures of the fields, and
sure,
I can blow that out everywhere and market it. And then yeah, man, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this season. That's
great. Well, yeah, that's a great segue. I'm looking forward. Hopefully we can have you back on the show again.
Yeah, for sure.
Just what you were saying, at the end of the day, produce is people. And so you're investing your life in people, they're investing in you. And all of that is trust, right? You got to be able to, and I'm convinced a good high percentage of the distrust is because of language and culture. But a huge percentage of that is also practice, right? The things that you got to show it with your work. And so that's awesome. I'm really, really excited for you. And
I appreciate that.
And hopefully we get to do another episode here, and maybe we could talk about some of the challenges of growing organic, and we'll go from there. But thank you for your time. And folks, do us a favor. If I always say in produce, in social media as in produce, if you like it, share it. So make sure you, if you like this podcast, share it. Make sure your friends know it. This is not just for people in the produce industry. We want you as a consumer to be thinking about what it takes to get that piece of lettuce or that head of romaine or that kale to your table, or whether it's at the restaurant or whether it's at home. There's a lot. They have no idea. Yeah,
they have no idea what goes in, what we do to get that there. They a lot of people, there's a few that know, but most people have no idea how hard it is to get that stuff in the wet rack. I mean, it's work, and they just go in and, here's my kale. Well, they don't really even think about it, but that kale to get there takes a long ride.
Yeah, it's a lot of time, a lot of people, a lot of lives that are affected by every single little head, every single little piece of fruit, every single veg. So anyway, thank you folks for being with us. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. So that's the show, folks. Make sure that you like it, make sure that you share it, and follow us on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram. We're in all the socials, even on YouTube. Make sure you follow us, share it, and like it.